everybody, welcome back to Taji's World of Books and welcome to another book recommendation video. Hey you guys, welcome back. So today I thought that I would do a book recommendation video based on revenge plot. So in essence, every story or every book that or series that I'm going to recommend today has the element or similar component of somebody is seeking revenge for a wrong that was done to them, and they are going to get it at all costs, no matter who it hurts and what happens and all those beautiful things. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first series of books is a trilogy, and the trilogy is by Monica James, and this is a dark romance. This is the Bad Saint trilogy, I believe is what it's called. And the first book in the series is Bad Saint, and this is where we're introduced to the story. And the main, the heroine, her name is Willow. She lives with her mother and her stepfather, her mother's boyfriend. Mother's boyfriend's name is Kenny. He is a pedophile, an attempted rapist. He is a disgusting human being. He's a drunk. He's an alcoholic. Her father died very early on, and her mother, as a result of her father's death, became like a pill addict and never really recovered from that. And so she took up residency, if you will, with Kenny, and Kenny, like I said, is a pedophile and attempted to rape Willow. And so Willow escapes from that situation, but as a result of that, she holds very dear to her original Christian upbringing, that before her father died, her father was a minister, a pastor, so she wears a cross around her neck, and because of the trauma that she suffered with Kenny and him attempting to rape her, she holds very dear to her virginity, and she believes that her virginity is sacred, and she wants to gift that to her husband on her wedding night. So fast forward, that's the sort of the prologue. So fast forward into chapter 1, we meet Willow, and she is a virgin bride, and she has just married Drew, who is the love of her life, although it's a very shotgun wedding in the sense that it happened very quickly. She'd only known him for like 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, but he literally swept her off her feet. She has moved to LA. She lives in LA. She is a model, and she has done very well for herself when she ran away from her mom in the Kenny situation at a very young age, but she became very successful because she's voluptuous and beautiful and all these things. And she's a very successful model. So she meets Kenny, and while she's with she meets Drew, and while she is with him, she decides this is the love of her life. She wants to marry him. So they get married, and they go to Greece on a honeymoon, and they're on a deserted island in Greece, and her husband says to her, I am going to take a shower and freshen up. Why don't you go wait for me on the balcony? And he's like, and this night can begin. And she's like, oh my gosh. So she goes out there, and she's like thinking about this wonderful night and how lucky she is to be on this beautiful island. And all hell breaks loose from there. She is accosted by these masked men. Some of them are Russian. One of them is clearly American. They roughhouse her up, duct tape her, and throw her into a boat, and they whisper off, and that is the beginning of this story. And the American in the book, or in this book, that she hears, she never sees him, but she hears his voice, his name is Saint. And the reason she learns his name is Saint is because one of the other Russian captors call him Saint. And so she kind of puts 2 and 2 together. And so this is fast-paced, action-packed, dark romance. She finds out the backstory of why she's kidnapped. She starts to understand who Saint is. She understands who her kidnappers are. She understands who has purchased her and for what purpose. And so there's so much that goes. This is a captor-captive situation. There are other pirates that come in that try to assault her and rape her. The Russians are disgusting, despicable characters in this, and so much happens. And as is expected, captor and captive become very close, which is Willow and Saint become very close, and their story ensues. And this ends in a bang and in a punch where captor and captive are reliant upon one another for survival. So that's what I'll say. This is a 5 out of 5 star. Very good. The second book in the story is Fallen Saint. That is volume 2. And so in this story, she is now delivered to Russia, to Alexei. Alexei is who has bought her to replace someone else, We also find out why Saint is doing what he has done. Saint is very connected to his sister, and you understand how his sister plays into this story. You also hear more about Drew, Willow's husband, and we understand why everything is happening. Willow is being watched in this book 24/7. She is being held hostage. She sees two sides of the persons that she loves, and she wants to understand that, and she wants the story to unfold, and she wants to get more. And you start to see where the revenge is coming in, and where all the diabolical dealings and the lying and the deception really come out, and you're starting to understand why she was kidnapped and who is the main culprit behind that, and how that sort of is going to work itself out. So this is definitely a middle book in terms of bringing the plot forward and helping you to understand how that ultimate culmination is going to happen. So this is really good. Although because this is moving steps, getting you closer, it dropped down a little bit. So this is a 4 out of 5 star, but still good nonetheless. And then the final book in the series is Forever My Saint, and as you would imagine, this is a wrap-up. This is where revenge is like, does revenge take a front seat to morality, or do you want to not stoop to the lows of the thieves, the gangsters, the liars, the deceivers, and do you want to rise above and be better than that, or do you want to be equally as culpable as they are? You get to see all of the secret dealings, the people that were in the back, who really is running the show, and what this all means. There's a setup in here for Alexei that is a main character in this book. He has a spin-off series and that is out already if you're interested in following up with that. But this is really great. I love the fact that there wasn't groveling that needed to be done. Usually when there's a captor-captive situation, there's a lot of groveling that the captor has to do if the captor and captive are going to get together. This is more, we need separation and time to heal because we have been damaged in so many ways. And so we need time to heal, to figure out if this is who we are as individuals and then who we are together as a couple, if that's what that is ultimately going to lead to. I love that this story and this series, not only does it deal with revenge, but it also deals with rape, and it deals with male rape and how a male handles that and what it does to his psyche when that happens. It also deals with, there's a constant threat to Willow's virginity, and like it becomes this thing that's like held in high regard, and they try to sell that to the highest bidder. And so that also is talked about, you know, like with female virginity and what that really means and how society views that and how there's a double standard. So Monica James did a really good job at kind of taking these tropes and these stereotypes and turning them on its head and really putting it forward and saying, how would you feel about that, and what would you do, and how would you help your partner heal when your partner, you know, is a male that's been assaulted. And so it's very interesting, and it's an interesting juxtaposition. So this is a great series. I would say that that trilogy overall is a definite solid 4 out of 5 stars. So if you're interested in the Saint series, then you should check that out. The next series that I want to recommend that is 100% about revenge plot is Monica James as well, and this is The Monsters Duet. Book 1 is Bullseye, and the second book is Blowback. And so Bullseye, the story is told in 3 points of view. It's told from Bull's perspective, Cody's perspective, and Lily's perspective. And you're going to hear about that more in a minute. So Bull, when we are introduced to him, he has just gotten out of prison. He's 30 years old. He's been in prison for the last 12 years. He does not like to be touched, and he tells his story of him being brutalized in prison and like him really coming of age. Like, I think he went to prison when he was like 17, something like that, 16, just shy of 17, was there for 12 years. He's just about 30 years old when he's getting out, right? And we learn that he believes and has tortured himself because he believes that it is 100% his fault that he is in prison because he did wrong by his brother. And so his brother Damien died because of something that he did, and he feels a tremendous amount of guilt. And when he gets out, because it was something that he did, he has targeted all the players that killed his brother in a very horrific way. We learn later what happened and how that happened. He has made it his mission that he is going to seek revenge for what they did, and then he is determined that he is going to die as a result of that. And so then Lily comes on the scene, and so we meet Lily because she works at a strip club as a dancer behind the scenes at a club that's across the street from the motel that he's taken up residence. And so Bull is on a very tight leash. He's very single-minded in his revenge plot and finding out information about the players. He goes to work at the strip club because he knows that the players that he needs to find are heavily involved in owning strip clubs, so he thinks that that's going to give him an in, but he's also heavily monitored by his parole officer, and so he has to walk a fine line, and so that's how the story sort of evolves and develops. When he goes over to the strip club and he meets Lily, because he's so attuned to her and because he's such a big guy and he is also a conscientious guy, he gets a job very easily as a bouncer at that facility. And this is a rundown place that really is going under, but the owner, a female, really takes a liking to him and he feels like he wants to help her out, and he's got an equal benefit of getting information and finding out these guys, finding where they are and who they are and their names and their details and taking them out. And so the story unfolds. And when you start to hear about Cody, when Cody comes in, you're like, who the heck is Cody? And so then you realize that Cody is Bull, but Bull is who he became when he went to prison, but Cody is who he was when he was a kid, when his brother Damien was murdered in front of his eyes. And so you start to understand that the story is told now and then. Cody tells you about then, Bull tells you about now, and Lily walks you through and how that all, you know, coalesces. And obviously there is a strong love interest between Bull and Cody, and Bull doesn't know how to handle that. Bull also is a virgin hero in this story, so that's quite interesting. And then we see that someone is trying to kill Lily, and so there's a plot that's unfolding. There are several characters where Lily has lived with grief and loss because the love of her life has passed away, and she doesn't know how and why, and she's trying to find out the story behind that. So this packs a punch. It is so good, and so many different point of views that are coming into play, and so many different schemes and plots and things that are happening that you just are like in it to win it, and it's like a page turner, and it's interesting, and it's fast paced, and it's really good. This is a 5 out of 5 star. So then in the second part of the book, Blowback, we basically see that he is closer to his revenge plot. He has taken out a couple of members of the people that murdered his brother, and now he is very close to culmination, and he is not going to allow anything to stop him. You are starting to see how Lily is tied into this scenario and what she means and how that breaks him more than any other reveal could. So there's a little bit of a plot twist here, but the story continues to unfold. You are there with him, and you feel his pain when you find out what happened to his brother. You find out how all these players come into play and what they all mean. And you also see how the probation officer is involved, and there's just so much, and it's an interwoven tale of deceit, lies, and intrigue that you are fascinated from page 1. And the way that the story ends and how it ends up, you are so there. You are there 100% for all of it, and you think it just is really, really good, and you're rooting for these characters, and you want to see that they have their HEA. And so that is Blowback, and I would say that duet overall is it's a solid 4 for sure. Okay, so this is the last book that I want to recommend, and this is Hurt by Lydia Michael. I am not going to go into great detail about this. You want to go over to Charles Books on Stereo. This is part of our book club, and so we are doing a video specifically on this, but let me just say that this is about Callan, who is a bare-knuckle boxer. He is set in Scotland, and his parents have passed away, and he supports his 2 younger siblings, Gavin and Innes. His best friend Reese is his boxing manager, sets up all of his fights for him. There is a situation where he is approached. He's supposed to fight the Mountain, and the Mountain is an Irish traveler who is an undefeated champion. He is supposed to fight him, and he is approached to throw the fight. But Callan is not that kind of guy, and so he refuses to do that. And as a result of him refusing to do that, they have taken out revenge against him. And the story jumps forward 4 years or multiple years to find out who did what to whom and under what circumstances. I'll say that. And when it jumps forward 4 years, you are now in the United States, and we are introduced to Emery. And Emery, this story has a lot of trigger warnings. This story is one of the hardest books I ever had to read, because you are reading this, again, this deals with rape, and you go through the brutality of the assault in here. It's done in a very tasteful way, but you go through it. And then you also deal with male rape in here as well, and being brutalized. And then it really talks about the process of healing and what that means. There's also a virgin hero in this story as well. And what do you do when you allow revenge to overtake everything that you do, even at the sake of friendships and relationships and living a healthy, normal life? Now, let me say this book is a 5 out of 5 star. This is going to make it in my top favorite. This book is amazing. It is so well done. When I finished this, I was sad to be leaving this world. I was in tears. It's left open-ended that it can like the world can continue and books in this world can continue. When you go on Goodreads, it's listed as book 1 in the Hurt series, and it's called Hurt because all of this hurts. Everything is painful. And what do you do when all of this is painful? So there's definitely more to come, but when you check out her website, she doesn't have any indication that she's writing more in this world. But as I said, the way that it ends, there's for sure going to be other books in this world as well. And I definitely think that there should be, because the story was sort of left, I was like, it was wrapped up, and I was like, what? It was like kind of abrupt. Like I wanted more, and I wanted to see where this was going to go. And you definitely see, like, when all these players, when everything works itself out, you're like, you got what you deserve, you got what you deserve, you needed that, that was what was supposed to happen. But at the same time, like, you know, when you're seeking revenge, do you compromise your soul to do that? Like, is it worth it, right? Is it really worth it? Because then you are no better than the people that harmed you for the pure sake of being evil, right? And so all of these books really bring up that moral compass about, do you want to be as evil as the people that once hurt you? Or do you want to rise above that? And can you forgive and heal and move on and still be you, but be a better version of you despite all this trauma that you've experienced? So Lydia Michael did a fantastic job with this book. So please go on Charles's channel. We're going to go into a great detail about this book and check it out, but it's definitely worth it. So you guys, that's all that I have for today on revenge plots. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and do me a favor and hit that bell notification button so you can be notified every time I upload a new video, which is generally Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but it's 3 times a week, that's for sure. Hit the like button because it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. And that is all that I have for today, and I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. Bye!